Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th episode of the Basement Podcast. I'm your host, Thucydides, and joining me today are the wonderful Lewis, Major, and Bennington. Here on the Basement Podcast, we're here to have some good times, hot takes, and just generally make fun of liberalism and culture from a conservative point of view. If you like what you're hearing, then you might as well subscribe to us on YouTube or Rumble, because those are the only places we're at. So if you're subscribing to us elsewhere, you've been scammed. Anyways, how you guys doing today?
I'm doing very well. What about you?
I'm doing all right.
Always happy to be here.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
I can't believe
All
we're
right.
already on episode 8. This is
Yeah.
really cool.
Wait, did I say 8?
This is
Yeah,
episode
you did.
8. Yeah.
This
I
might
was
be
gonna
9.
It is
No, this is
9.
Episode 9? This is the 9th.
This is episode
Okay,
9.
so this is 9, not 8.
Yeah. Just
Can
for
we?
clarification, this is episode number 9.
Yeah, let's redo that intro really quick.
Okay, take
ladies
2.
and yeah, I'll do it really fast though. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 9th episode of the Basement Podcast. I'm your host today. Joining me today are the wonderful Lewis Bennington, and Major here on the Basement Podcast. We're here to have some good times, hot takes, and just generally make fun of liberals and culture from a conservative point of view. If you like what you're hearing, then you might as well subscribe to us on YouTube or Rumble, because that's the only place we're at. If you're subscribing to us anywhere else, you are getting scammed. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Just
You should be an
activated
auctioneer.
Ben
Have you ever
Shapiro mode.
considered being a rapper?
Or an
Um,
auctioneer.
Auctioneer does not interest me. Ben Shapiro. How
How does one become a
Competitive?
Ben Shapiro?
I don't know.
Does it involve like genetic
These are-
mutation?
These are the questions that we should
I
be
think you have
asked.
to be Jewish. I think.
Yeah.
Oh
have to
yeah,
be
that's a
Jewish.
big one.
That's a big one. Big commitment.
Yeah.
You have to marry a doctor, actually.
Oh shoot.
Yes.
Okay.
That
Two
that
things.
too. That too.
Being Jewish and marrying a doctor. are
What?
both
2
things that will
whole
never happen to
things?
me.
Oh no.
Both
That's
things that will
that's
never happen.
one
to
too
me.
many things for me to accomplish.
All right. Well, in true basement fashion, I got my fish crackers, and we are going over. The question today is, what makes you blank? Don't think about it
Blanking
too
makes
much.
me blank. I'll tell you that.
That's kind of weird, man.
That's
Okay.
real.
Question number 1: what makes you happy?
Well, I guess I'll start, maybe. What makes me happy? Well, of course, the main thing that makes me happy is knowing that my family are in good health. That, of course, I'm just very happy for a lot of things, namely my family, my friends, and music. For those that know me IRL. But yeah, it's just, I guess, knowing that my family and my friends are in good health and that I'm in a good place mentally, which I am. So that's basically all I can say at the top of my head.
That's very wholesome.
I was actually having a conversation with somebody earlier today about happiness, and I was thinking how happiness is a lot more like in the moment, in my opinion, because I feel like joy and happiness are 2 very different things. So if you're asking me what brings me happiness, do you mean more like just like a kind of casual happiness or like a deeper joy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally fair, because like a lot of
That's a
people
valid
just
point.
have no concept of joy. But happiness is so temporary, right? Happiness is so contingent on our surroundings, whereas joy is so much more intrinsic. And I know so many people like who aren't Christians are like, oh, I just want to be happy. I'm like, you can be as happy as you want, and you'll never feel good about
Have
it.
joy. No. But I think if we are talking in the context of just like like a kind of casual happiness, I think what brings me the most like general happiness is probably time with friends, experiences, conversations. I think communicating with people like I care about brings me a lot of happiness on a day-to-day basis and making others smile. I think that's my answer to that.
Fair enough.
I would probably go the same direction. I'm an introvert, but I really like being around people. I don't know. It definitely, I
A
think,
little
brings
bit of
me
a
a lot of
contradictory
peace.
statement, but that
No,
works.
I
And I
don't think
totally
so.
understand where you're coming from.
I can get like really tuckered out being around people, but I always
That's
have a smile on my
Yeah.
face.
Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2: what makes you ugly cry?
That
Red
is
Dead
a
Redemption 2.
That's fair.
Red Dead Redemption. That is true. And
Yo,
Arthur Morgan.
I was watching an episode of like The Walking Dead the other day, and
Really?
it wasn't even like I didn't ugly cry or anything, but I was genuinely more sad at the death of someone's pet than major characters who have died in that show. And I found that actually pretty funny to myself because there are certain characters in that show that get killed off, and there's basically like riots in the fan base about it. And then like someone's pet died in the last episode, and I was genuinely more upset about that than like major character deaths.
So you're just
That's actually
weeping.
you're just
I
weeping
was
for.
like, no. What was like? Oh, come on, man. Like, oh,
Why
dude.
did that
And
have to happen?
Their pet totally could have taken more than like 5 zombies. Like, come on. Okay, I'm
Right.
going on a bit of a tangent. I'll just
Yeah,
That's
I'll
no,
that's fine.
well,
That's fine.
That's all good,
If
man.
you're ugly crying, we'd love to hear it. I'm gonna have
What
to
makes
go
me
honestly.
cry?
Or I'll let you. I'll give you a second to think. There is
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
episode of Adventures in Odyssey. It's called The Toy. I've listened to that episode twice. I
Oh.
can't bear to listen to that one again because I mean, last time I listened to it, I was like 13. But last time I listened to it, I was like tears, genuine. Like I don't cry over much of anything except for like yawning. For the reason when I yawn, I just start
No, I
tears
feel
start
that.
rolling. But that episode, I was just like, man, I don't want to do anything today. I'm so sad.
It gets too
Adventure in
real.
Odyssey hits different. It's like
Yeah.
I
oh,
never
it
grew
was
up
very
with it.
formative. Dang, that's
What
unfortunate.
childhood
I
did you
was
have?
I had a VeggieTales childhood, man. I had a banging
Oh.
childhood.
That's fair.
I had a Treehouse TV. Anyway,
We were
what makes me ugly cry? Well, the last time I cried over anything completely random was at the end of a movie, and it's not any movie that you would probably know, but it was one of the first Disney Plus original film that was released to Disney Plus, and it was called Stargirl, and my celebrity crush Grace Vanderwaal was in it, and it was interesting because I had never seen her act before, and I cried at the end of the movie because her character just up and left. They had no idea where she went, and I was like, "Dang, she's literally just gone." And I was like, "No, why did that have to happen? That's not supposed to happen. What?"
Your celebrity
Just,
crush leaves a movie, and that's just like what ends you.
I saw that movie actually. It was pretty good. I read the books too. They
You
were
know
also
the
pretty
yeah,
good.
you know the movie that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. It was
Yeah.
pretty well executed. I understand the emotions.
Fair enough.
I wonder when the last time I cried during a movie was.
I know, but I'm not gonna say the movie. I was
Oh
really
no.
I was a little kid when I saw this movie, and my family still mentions it.
Oh God.
So yeah, we're just gonna move on from this question. Question number 3.
Okay.
What makes you not sleep at night?
Oppenheimer.
Oh, a lot.
All right.
But no. In all
I feel like
seriousness,
Save a
really
little bit of
stupid
this for the next question, because the next question hits different as well.
Okay, I don't want to like just say a lot and then say nothing, but I have a very it's kind of weird because my brain is very slow to start in the morning and very slow to stop in the evening.
yeah.
Like so I'll
Same.
be lying in bed and like my brain is
Mhm.
very active for like 30 minutes and I just think about a lot of random stuff. Sometimes it's positive things that keep me awake and sometimes it's negative things and sometimes it's sad things. It's just whatever thoughts come and go through my mind. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
really a
why I
random
can't sleep at night for
mix
like an
of
hour,
things.
right?
And then sometimes you have nights and you get into like the really deep crap in your brain and you're like, whoa, like I
Yeah.
did not expect to be hit with
Yeah.
like the 2 a.m. emotions, like out of pocket. Or it's like you'll just get hit suddenly with like a really sad thought. And that'll just be like,
Yeah.
man, that's just gonna ruin my night. But like I don't want to be specific with stuff, but like I don't know. I think everybody gets those moments where they're like, dang, and like really? Like, wow.
Yeah. I get those
Oh.
all the time.
Yeah.
That's a
I
keep
never
me
have a problem sleeping. I fall asleep
I'm so
immediately and I
jealous.
sleep all
I don't,
night.
I'm jealous
I don't
of that.
What
understand how
drugs
people
do you
can just
use?
like some people can just
I'm
conk
clean, man.
out and like
I just sleep. I can go to bed at like I'll tiptoe
some
upstairs at
people's
12 and
brains
Maria
just
will be
work like
out.
a light switch. They just can turn off and on, and like it takes me so long to wake up and so long to go to sleep.
It's
And
fantastic. being able to sleep properly.
I'm so jealous. Like honestly,
I would be
Yeah.
willing to share some of my abilities, but I don't know how that's possible. Maybe I'll just like I don't know. Maybe I'll do like a
you
course
just
one day.
need
How to sleep.
an ability sharer.
Just sleep good.
Yeah, for
Everybody
real.
has one of those.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I love how y'all's answers, like Major and Bennington, is like, what makes you lot sleep at night? Not sleeping.
Not
I
sleeping.
was
Yeah.
expecting some like deep answer, and it was like, child slavery or something in like North Korea. You guys are like, nah, I just can't go to sleep. I mean, here's the thing, I'm in the
I mean,
but
US
more or
in both,
less,
so I
but
can't
like,
complain.
There's more to it than that, but in a nutshell, that's basically it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
also
yeah.
thinking about like the personal weight of decisions or tasks that you're going to have to overcome at some point, or like where you're going in life and what you're doing, and like
Dude, I
thinking
thought I was the
about
only
what really
one.
means and what really matters. It's like it's also sometimes just like the big questions that keep you up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Um question number 4. And
By the way,
I
before we continue, for those that are either listening or watching, I'm using a new mic right now, so let me know what the quality sounds like in the comments. I'm sure you guys will either tell me or through Thucydides, or I'm sure I'll go back. I'll find out when I go back and watch this episode, or go back and listen to this later on. But
It
just wanted
sounds
to
alright.
throw that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds fine.
If anyone, I probably have the lowest quality microphone. But
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I gave this
anyways,
episode an hour. Normally, like we target half an hour. Most of our episodes
Okay.
are well past that. But yeah, typically we target half hour. I told y'all we're gonna do an hour because of this
Yeah.
question. What
Okay.
makes you angry? And I'm gonna go first because I want to get this out before y'all do. I
Go.
was driving the other day, and
Oh,
I
here we
hate when
go.
people do driving. Yeah, I hate when people just take some fact they don't know, something they know so little about, even if something I know so little about, but then they just broadcast that as if it's the absolute truth. I was driving one day and I saw this poster,
Real.
and it was like, Israel has killed 40,000 Palestinian children in a week or something so ridiculous. And
What?
it was like, stop the genocide. I'm like, you want to talk about genocide? About how literally you're calling for the death of Jews. You know who else called for the death of Jews? The Nazis, the original
In
genocide.
1940, yeah, all
Yeah,
throughout
it's
the
like,
Second World War.
this
did you
is
just
so-
make a
just-
joke about the OGs as in oh my goodness. I'm sorry. That pun was so out of pocket and like that's I'm never gonna hear original gangster the same again. The original genocide. Holy,
I didn't
that
even
is
notice till you
wild.
said it.
That was good.
No.
That was good. I'll give you that one. The
Yeah, I
original
didn't
genocide.
know. I didn't catch it till you said anything.
Oh my
But-
gosh.
But this whole thing continues to people talking about guns. Like you see all the clips of Joe Biden saying, "Oh, buy a shotgun, buy a double barrel shotgun," and it's like, okay, well, you don't know anything about home defense. And to be fair, neither do I.
Yeah, and
But
this is the same person that said a 9mm can blow the lung right out
Yeah.
of the body.
yeah, and then he got so fact checked by Grand Thumb. That was amazing. But yeah, just
Yeah,
people
I
talking
watched
like
that.
or
Yeah, I
how
watched that video. I showed it to my
People were like,
dad.
"Oh, the AR it weighs as much as 10 boxes you might move things in." And it's like, okay, no, it doesn't. Also, there's a reason the AR-15 is popular is because I think I can't remember, some US politician said this. Like, my grandma can take an AR-15 and shoot a baseball at 100 yards. And it's like, okay, you can't do that with a pistol, but why are we banning ARs?
Yeah,
Because
and-
they're the most effective tool for home defense.
I'd like to add something else. Going back to what we were mentioning about what Garantham was doing, I saw another video in that same vein where the person used a 625 grain round in a revolver. And if you don't know, that is an enormous round. Like my dad
That is
has
a
a hunting
monster.
rifle, a 30-06 is 150 to 180 grains. 625 grains is not practical for any real world scenario. I'm surprised and I watched it and I was like, I'm surprised the revolver barrel didn't explode. Like, it's only practical if you're trying to shoot an intruder in your neighbor's house who's hiding behind a refrigerator, right? I even looked
even.
up the rounds used in the 357 Magnum, which I'd like to get,
Wait,
and those are still usually 125 grains. And that recoil coming from the 500 Magnum revolver is really, really something.
Yeah.
Quite surprised
That's
to even
the
hit the
wrist-
dummy at all.
The wrist breaker.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway.
Man. Anyways, we still got 2 people who want
Yeah.
to talk about getting angry.
Including me.
Oh,
But
yeah, 3.
yeah. But I'm gonna leave it to you know what? I'll pass on to Major.
Oh,
Yeah, Major, do you have something to say? I'm still thinking.
a lot of things.
I'm trying to think of like a way to make it concise.
Don't
I feel
worry
like
about
this is a
making it
weird way of putting
concise.
it, but
This is where the clips come from.
Yes.
almost like, I guess, low quality people make me very angry. Not in the sense that, because I suppose a lot of low quality people have been through a lot and a lot of like hurt and haven't had the greatest life most of the times, but just people who are like very selfish and self-centered and very, very like willing to hurt others. Like people who are so like carefree to the point where they like will stomp on someone else, gain ground or to get what they want. People who would hurt others for their own gain.
Mm.
I feel
I'd
like
like to
I'm not doing it justice, like what I feel about it and how I think about it. But sometimes you just hear stories of guys, or you hear the way that people act, or like how some
Yeah.
people are so high on themselves. That's another thing. I think that's just a personal, like that just might be for a personal problem for me. But like, I always feel really frustrated with people who are like very high on themselves. Like I just can't stand those people where it's like people who think they're the protagonist. If you think you're
Yeah.
the protagonist, don't talk to me, please. Like I mean that in the most respectful manner. Like I just I don't want to have to put up with that. Like it just makes me so, like, I don't know how to describe it. I feel like I'm not really doing justice of
No, yeah. I get
what I mean,
exactly
but
what you're saying.
I'd like to add to that, if I may, because I know exactly what you mean, Major, when you're talking about people who would go out of their way to really hurt somebody. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically, there was someone that I was really, really, really close friends with in high school. I'd known the guy for about 6 years, and then completely just decided to. I'm not going to go into the details of why this all happened. That's a topic for another day. But basically, after 6 years, decided to just end the friendship after he perceived that I was doing something and blew it completely out of proportion. And then another friend of his just yesterday went to gossip about it on YouTube and completely like dragged me through the mud and basically tried to. It hurt me badly, and I also laughed at how that person could view themselves and their significant other as saints and everybody else as a screw up. Like I could go on and on and on about this, but for the sake of the episode and for the sake of not revealing too much information, I'm going to leave it there. But I'm pretty sure you guys know what I mean when I say that. And yeah, I'm sure I don't need to explain myself because you guys must already know the situation.
That's a rough place to be in.
Yeah.
I think
And you always get that pain, that weird, tight, painful feeling in your chest that feels like somebody is like grabbing hold of your heart and squeezing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I may offer some consolation about that, obviously, like I get like you've been hurt and that is awful, but what so many people do is they take hurt and they just hang on to it.
Yep.
And that was me with a few different people. And it's just the longer you hold on to it, the more it hurts you, right? Even if it's years later after they said one little thing, if you keep hanging on to it, it'll never stop hurting you. It's until you say, okay, you know what, you're forgiven. You start praying for them. Like that was
Exactly.
so much. Like I get why Jesus said, pray for your enemies. Because when you start praying for them, you
No,
get
I
this
was
different appreciation for them as a person. And you can say to them, hey, you know what? I actually really respect you. You know, maybe we have
Yeah.
our differences. Maybe I don't like something you did to me, but I can forgive and you can move on. And if you pray for somebody and if you can feign respect and like love for them, eventually like the lie becomes the truth, right? If you tell yourself, oh, this person's great, I like them, you will, and then you take yourself from a position of malice, and you're just convincing yourself to forgive
Yeah.
them, and forgiveness is always the best option. So
I
sure
I
they're
absolutely
slandering
agree
you,
with that.
but
Yeah.
if you let go, the pain goes away.
It's so
Yeah.
There,
interesting that you say that because actually, like, just recently, I kind of came to I guess, the same conclusion. Like, I was like kind of reflecting on my life, and I was like, yeah, there's people who've hurt me, and that's really unfortunate. But I'm not becoming a better person now for still being like mad about it. And so, like, actually, just like this last week, I put up a couple names. I had like a prayer wall of like things that I'm actively praying for, and I put them up there to try to like remind myself. And I actually like put up a couple people on there, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pray for these people. So it's like interesting timing that you brought that up because it's very true, and I've definitely seen it recently in my own life.
there are
Yeah.
people in my own life who have done things to me that are at a point where they do not deserve respect or forgiveness, but I will still pray for them because at the very least, I recognize that that is what God has called me and commanded me to do. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I find after an extended period of time, and even though it was very difficult for me to pray for them, after praying for them, I think it's healed a lot in a way, and I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
that it's so important to make an effort to pray for those who have hurt you because it allows you to forgive them and I think kind of get over the hurt that's been put onto you, even if that hurt is something that you didn't ask for and something that you didn't deserve. And to be honest, like they probably even if it's someone who doesn't deserve the prayer or deserve the forgiveness, the way I looked at it is it's like, yeah, it really sucks that this happened, but at the end of the day, this person may walk away from the faith because of what they've done and I like that's still a soul that could be saved. What they did was wrong, and it's unforgivable. It's completely messed up, but that's still a soul that could be saved. And I feel like there's honor in praying for somebody like that who's hurt you in that way because
Right.
you're just being the bigger person, and you're understanding that even though they've hurt you in such a damaging way, that there's still a soul behind that body, and that soul is going to be punished eternally if they don't find salvation. And
Yeah.
it's like I wouldn't wish damnation on anyone, like honestly.
And if you're one thing that I learned, because the whole situation with me happened 3 days after Christmas, and I had to do a lot of self-reflection leading into the new year. And one thing that I'm still trying to come to grips with is that if you're carrying around anger and resentment from anything that has happened in your past, whether it's from a previous relationship or whatever, don't you think you owe it to yourself to forgive them so that you can let yourself free?
Mhm. Not that we should be forgiving people out of selfishness,
No,
um, but yeah, like
not.
you only
No,
hurt yourself by not forgiving other people, and really you're hurting them as
exactly.
well. I
Yeah.
do want to say one thing, Major. You mentioned like what someone has done is unforgivable, and I get like where you're coming from. Like obviously, there people do things to us. It's like that feels so unforgivable. Um, but my pastor at church put this into wonderful perspective this Sunday actually, and that was, who are we to not forgive people? Because really, what Jesus did for us, Jesus, who did absolutely nothing wrong, completely blameless, forgave us of every bad thing we could possibly do in one go, whether that's lying or murdering someone. Jesus
No,
forgave it just like
I
that.
absolutely agree. I'm just
Yeah.
like what I mean is it's like if somebody does something terrible, my point is that you should still forgive them and
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
should still have kindness for them no matter what they've done to you because at the end of the day, that is somebody who could be saved through your kindness. I think if somebody hurts you and you make an effort to show them kindness, that will speak volumes of your character and ultimately the character of God. And if you can show
Right.
someone the character of God who's in a place where they need it, then you could very well save them. And it's like something that I always think is that if you go through an extended period of suffering or something difficult, but a singular person could be saved because of it, then that suffering is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
at a loss
nothing-
for words for that, Major. Very, 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 very well
Nothing
spoken.
is truly beyond forgiveness, and maybe it's just
No.
because we can't see the big picture.
Well, and it's
But-
like
Correct.
if I've been forgiven through Christ, then I should forgive others as well, no matter what
Mhm.
they've done. Like that's
Right.
like it's like if what's that story in the Bible where it's like talking about like the one person begging it's like the high up slave begging their owner to forgive them of the debt, and then it's like the slave of the slave asks for
Yeah.
forgiveness, and they cancel, and then it's like, well, who are you to like? It's like, it's like I forgave your debt, and you're not going to forgive someone else. Like
Mhm.
it's like
Right.
because I've been washed clean of my sin, I should be willing and eager to forgive others, like no matter what they do.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Very well done.
This is what I love about the Basement podcast is that I can write
Yeah.
questions and only answer the ones I want to answer.
Exactly.
Next question. Unless you guys
Actually,
have more to say
did
about
we-
being angry.
We did hear from Lewis, didn't we?
I think so. Unless
Yeah, we did.
Lewis has more to say.
Lewis was like,
Honestly, I don't know
Lewis
what I
was-
can add to that. I think that's pretty
No,
fantastic.
I think
Yeah.
she was pretty solid in what she said.
okay.
Sweet. All right. Next question then. Number 5. What makes you live? What makes you live?
Like
What
as
Besides
in,
the
like,
obvious,
feel
is it-
What makes
alive?
me
yes.
What makes
Someone's
me feel
gonna say
alive, or what keeps
oxygen,
me
and
here?
if you say oxygen, you're off the show.
Oxygen.
All right, that's it. You're done, buddy. You're done.
Oh, you
son. I'm
can't kick him
deleting.
up after. No.
I'm deleting
No!
every episode you're in.
Holy!
Wait, no, you
Sorry.
can't.
I didn't even kick him.
After
I
that.
didn't even kick him.
Okay, no, don't.
He left of his own accord.
No. Sorry. Sometimes at 9:35 on random days of the week, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme plays in my room at maximum volume. I just had to disconnect quickly to tell him
Okay,
to shut
That's
up.
fair. Honestly, yeah.
that's fair.
What?
What makes you live?
No, I'm
What?
serious.
What?
Wait, what?
No,
The Mickey
I
Mouse
was joking.
Clubhouse theme.
No, I'm serious.
Oh my gosh.
This is
I
the problem. I don't know how to fix it.
Where's it
Wow.
coming from?
We have a I have an Echo Dot in my room. I mean, get your conspiracy stuff out now, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Gosh.
I have an
Okay.
Echo Dot in my room, and like
So
one
do
day I
I.
was on the living room, and because we have a few in the house, and one day I was in the living
Yeah.
room, and it was like, do you want me to play the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme at 9:35 on this day, and this day? And I was like, yes, because I thought it'd be funny, and now I've been cursed. I've been dealing with this for months, and I don't know how to stop it. Like every
Your
random days of the
own-
week at 9:35, it'll be full blast volume Mickey Mouse theme playing in my room, and I have to like yell at it like a man from the 1950s to shut up. Like this.
The man from the 1950s.
That's so funny.
Is that a reference, Major? Is that by any chance a reference to a certain player-created character in a certain game available on Steam?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I would DM you about it, but this is not the time or place for it.
All right.
Yeah, imagine.
Okay.
Anyways, before I
During the show.
had to
we
explain
go
the
even-
Mickey Mouse lore.
Sorry,
Mr.
yeah.
What makes you
what
live?
makes you live?
Mr. Public Domain.
Right.
Besides
Meaning,
the
okay,
obvious.
meaning what? Meaning
You
what?
mean like
what?
you mean like
what do you
makes
live
me
for?
feel
What
alive?
keeps you? Yeah. What gets
keep-
you out of bed in the morning?
What
keeps
keeps
you-
me here, or what? It's like what makes me feel alive, or what keeps me here?
Yeah. No, it could
'Cause
be
those
that.
are
It
two
could,
different things.
It could be what gets you. What do you wake up for?
What makes you
every
get out of
day?
bed in the morning?
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess what like keeps me going and motivated is the fact that
Been
Been
that's
given
a
an
very emo
opportunity.
question.
I've been given the opportunity. I think life is an opportunity to help others. Like that's the way that I view life. I feel like I have not as much time as people really comprehend. Like life really is short, but I think within that time frame, I've been blessed with an opportunity to try and work in the lives of others to help them. Like I feel personally very called to serve others and to show others kindness, and that's something that I want to go far with. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that that's at least what keeps me here is that I want to be able to help others because I feel like at the end of the day, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If I can help at least one person in my life, then that is a one for one trade off, and my life is worth living. If you can influence somebody's life or change their mindset, or even if you can lead them to Christ, then it's like that is a one for one trade off, and your life was worth living. So I personally feel called to reach
Hmm.
out to the people who need it and try to help the people who need helping. And I'm still young yet. Like I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but I'm pretty sure
Right.
that's what I want to do with my life with the time I have on earth because the time you have on earth, I was even thinking about this the other day where it's like the time we have on earth is the only time we're going to have on earth. And I know that sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but it's really true. The time you have
It
on Earth
is.
is a very small time frame in the span of your very long, at least spiritual existence, where you have the chance to save somebody from damnation, or to lead them to Christ, or to even like change someone's mindset, or to make their day better. It's a chance to help others, and I think that's what keeps me going, and
Or to help
what
them take one step
what
forward to
I want to
save them
live
from
for.
themselves, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where to go when it comes to answering that question. What makes me get out of bed in the morning? Because I still have a decent amount of time, however short it may be, ahead of me. I mean, I'm only 20 years old and I feel like I'm, you know, but to basically, to put it simply, it's like the idea of, I don't know if it makes any sense when people talk about being put on this earth to make a difference or whatever it was, but I mean, I don't know. I genuinely feel like, um, with the short amount of time that I have, I feel like I can, and I don't want this to sound cliche or anything, but I feel like I can be able to make a difference in at least one. Like, if you can make a difference in the life of one person, then you could probably die the following day and you would still leave the world a better place than it was when you entered it.
Hmm.
That's my point exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think so, but yeah, that is. I think that's what I feel called for, and what kind of keeps me going, and what what I live for. I think, like
Yeah.
ultimately, boiling it down is like what I would like to live for God and to serve God in the way that He is He's asked me to. That's what I want, but I'm still young and I'm still learning and I'm still growing in my faith. So it's a journey, and I'm at the start of something that could be big if I let God work in me. But
Yeah.
I guess yeah, that's my answer to
Hmm.
being
Oh,
alive or
All right.
whatever.
that's a completely
Good.
solid answer. Yeah.
Good stuff. What about you, Thucydides? We never heard from you about this.
Hey, you said it right. Yeah. I mean, I think for me,
I'm just going by
it's
how you pronounced it, so I
I
don't know.
have a I have a very maybe not odd, but internal sense of duty to
That's
like
not
my
odd at all.
family. And yeah, but it's to the point where it's like, even if I hate doing something, it's like, hey, well, I have to do this, if not for myself, for others. And that is, and I guess ultimately for God. For me, that is so much of what keeps me going. And sometimes I don't always listen to it, and there's days where I'll just sit in bed and be like, oh man, I don't want to do anything. But you know, taking life and applying discipline, and you get better at that. And that's something that I've been working on, is being more disciplined with my time. And I started doing university and exercise and all the fun stuff. But yeah, living has just become a sense of, I have to do this because I owe it to my family or I owe it to God. Um, and maybe
Right.
doing it out of a feeling of debt is probably not the best way to look at it, but it's how I look at it. And so,
But at least I feel like at least looking at through the lens of debt is better than not looking at through any lens at all. Because I think a lot of people today is
Right.
like are completely unmotivated. They're just in their rooms rotting away. Like think about I would say like even the people I work with now, I think a majority of people, especially guys who are like in their prime, are just rotting away in their room with like very little social life, just degenerate. Like I mean that I don't mean that in like the rude way. I just mean like it's what the world has to offer is very tempting and very easy to slip into. And if you slip into that pattern, you will be like lazy and unmotivated and like unhealthy. And I'm not like speaking like I'm some perfect person. Like I'm on a computer a
No.
lot more than I probably should be. I'm not super like healthy. I'm like probably couldn't run around the block without feeling sick. I'm not crazy overweight or anything, but I'm definitely not in shape. I think that
No, neither am I.
it is something that I would like to change in the future for sure. Like I kind of understand what you're saying, especially making an effort to be disciplined. Like I've for a while I was making my bed and then I stopped. And now I'm trying to get back to the rhythm of discipline again, where it's like exercise and at the very least, at the very least, I want to be disciplined in the sense of like my time with God in the mornings and making my bed. Like that's where I'm starting right now. I clean my room every morning, I make my bed, and it's like it's not perfect, but it's a start. And I think if you have a start and you're putting your best foot forward, as long as you have that motivation, you can get to a point where you're the person you want to be.
Right.
yeah, no, that is completely fair. Lewis, do
Yeah.
you want to add to this before we move on?
Sure.
I
I
know
mean,
this
there's like
question's
a
a
lot of
doozy, so
like excellent things that have been said, and I agree with all of them. I guess on a more personal level, I think. Well, maybe speaking, we'll start like speaking generally. So much, like so many people, like maybe it's just a product of when you grow up. When you grow up, when you're a kid, your perception of the world is very self-focused. Like your world is what you can see and what affects you, and it's very natural. It is measurable when a kid switches from seeing just themselves in their life to seeing other people. Like there's a definable point when that perspective change happens. But even in like the adolescent period, there's still a huge like focus on yourself. And I think a big part of maturing is starting to realize that there are people outside of yourself and that in a lot of ways they're a lot more important than you. Like you're not like kind of like Major was saying earlier, like you're
You're
not the
not
main
the
character.
protagonist. You're not the
Yeah,
main character.
you're not the
Yeah.
protagonist. And I think
That's a
one
really, really good analogy.
one big like learning point for me, specifically related to this question and to the topic of not being the protagonist, was when I realized that if I wasn't here, then people like my siblings would be negatively affected. Um, and so a big part of my journey is that I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't feel like I had ties to people like my sister, who's like so important to me. And I don't think she knows this, but
Yeah. I mean,
she doesn't.
there
I
are days
no.
where I would like I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the fact that my sister was here and she needs someone in her life and she doesn't need like the hole in her life that would be me not being here. So obviously
Exactly.
there's
I
a
mean,
lot to that story, but I think a
no.
big thing that keeps me here is my family.
Yeah, and I can speak from a very similar standpoint, like especially when it comes to people like my immediate family, like of course people like my grandmother and people like my dad and my three younger brothers, including my youngest brother who just turned 10 earlier this month. It's like there have
Get
been
to
countless
speak
times
his name,
where
yeah.
I felt like, I mean, like I've been there have been countless times just in the past year alone where I felt like people would be better off without me. And then the thoughts of all these other people um, are like, allow me to reintroduce myself. And they're like, okay, this is not cool. You need to be like, these people, like, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for these people. Like, even my, especially someone like my grandmother, who has been my primary caregiver since I was. So I can speak from a very similar standpoint when it comes to basically, like, if I wasn't here, then all of these people in my life will be negatively impacted.
Yeah, and I
So
mean that's the place where you start, right? You start from these are the people that need me to be here. And maybe like need
Yeah.
feels like a strong word, but your place in their life is very necessary, and you go from that place of this is the bare minimum. This is why I'm here, and this is like the least that I can say about my existence. And you go from there, and then you start to build off of that, and you're like, well, like Major was saying, I can have a positive impact. I can help other people.
Right.
I can make their lives easier, and then that builds to something else. Like I can learn things. Like a big part of it was like there's still so many things that I haven't experienced. Like I've never experienced like being married. I've never experienced traveling by myself, like far away to a country, like different countries. Like there's so many things that I haven't tried that I'd still really like to see. It's kind of like being in it. Like this is a terrible analogy because it makes me sound like such like a screenager, but like it's kind of like in a game, and like there's so many things that you haven't tried yet, and so you don't want to just delete the game because there's still a lot there. And then you go from like, oh, there's still so many things I haven't experienced to like there is a wider purpose. There's like this life is such a gift, and I don't know. You just build off of the bare minimum, and then you start to realize that there are days like today, which was a snow day, and it's beautiful outside, and there's like it's all white and everything is bright, and you realize
And everything
that
is peaceful.
It's not always going to be hard, even if it feels like it's been hard for a while. There's like these days, even if they're like one in like 300, there are these days that just make it all worth it.
Right.
Yeah, totally. All right, next question.
This is I'd just like to say this is probably the most personal I myself have ever gotten on this podcast. Just gonna throw that out there right now.
Fair enough.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Well, I
No.
don't know. All right.
We love getting up and personal at the
Exactly. I mean,
Basement
that's
podcast.
somewhat part of what I love about this is like the whole pseudonyms thing is that you can kind of say
Yeah.
whatever you want, and your employer maybe will never find out unless they really know your voice. In which case, you're
Well, I
screwed.
mean, if we really got hated, I feel like I would be pretty sure the internet could like get a pipe bomb in my mailbox. The internet's wild for like track people down.
It's all
There
coming
are
to me
instances.
first. It's all
Oh,
coming to
dude,
me
there are
first, though.
instances where somebody will be doing something and there'll be like a picture. It was like a stream in a white room, and they found out where they were in the world based on the light coming in through the window.
Yeah. And
My
geoguessr
Like-
players are getting out of hand. Holy.
Like, it is wild.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of hate, we actually did get some negative comments on one of the clips. Honestly, I
Yes.
think I want to do a video not reacting, but responding to the comments. That's why I haven't mentioned anything to any of them.
That would be pretty
but
interesting to do. I'd
if-
love to be involved in that.
Yeah, at least specifically for the clips. Like if whoever says it, they get to respond to the hate on that clip. So I think it's mostly been Lewis. She's just too based, man. Holy.
I'm surprised that. Okay, I'm just gonna say this right now. You can cut this out if you want, but I'm surprised that Major, who I've probably known the longest out of all of you guys, I'm not sure, but I'm surprised that his Major himself has stated in the past about how his opinions would probably land him in some gulag or something. And I'm like, I'm very much the same way. And yet he's gotten the least amount of whatever in regards to the Basement podcast.
Well, I mean, it's like even
He
even
has only
on
been on
like
a couple
even
episodes, but still.
I've only been on a few episodes, and to be honest, even though we're on like, I'm like
This is
we're
only
on a
my second time on
I'm
this.
being conservative on a conservative podcast. I'm always cautious with what I say and how much I say, and I'm willing to
Yeah.
be a little risky here, but I wouldn't go fully in depth with anything because you just never know. It's not
You
something you
never
want to
know.
file. I mean, I figure it's like if somebody wants evidence condemning me of all this stuff, it'd be pretty easy to find. I'm pretty positive that it would be easy to like have voice recordings of me or like whatever, right? Like I feel like if I'm screwed, I'm screwed. So it's like I'm not really losing anything
Yeah.
here. I'm not playing it risky, but like
No,
I don't
neither am
but
I. Like, I imagine if I
I
get rich
try
and
to
famous.
I
Sorry,
try
go
to keep my opinions as honest as possible while still being a little bit conservative.
Same. I mean, like, I imagine, like, if I ever get rich and famous or whatever, and people want to cancel me for something, they'll only have to come here, even though this is my second time on this thing. They'll have to come here, and then they'll find all of my actual opinions, and they'll be like, "Someone get the Molotovs" or something. I don't.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of getting canceled, you guys are gonna love this next question.
Oh
Number
no.
6. What makes you love Justin Trudeau?
The beard, that's
Nothing.
it. Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay,
Shoot.
okay.
That stubble goes hard,
Oh,
but
here we go.
that's the only
My-
thing he's done right.
Okay.
My political science
have-
teacher was talking about how he is like Justin Trudeau has an epic physique and like is one of the hottest world leaders, but how he's an absolute moron. He went on a huge rant about this, and I was not expecting that from university, but it was
Well,
like so great.
If I can say one
Based.
thing, and I have a story to tell about this too, if I may. But what I've noticed is that the only thing positive about Trudeau is his charisma. That's how he got elected in the
Mad
was his
Riz.
charisma. So yeah, his mad riz, which I mean today that would work considering he doesn't have a wife anymore. Anyway, I do have a specific story to tell, and those that know me IRL have heard this story before.
About JT. All right. Let's hear it.
And it's it's because I was in another part of the city, just out
The
doing whatever.
city.
The city. I'm not going to say where, but I was in a certain part of that whole area near like a pier or whatever, and Trudeau was there begging for votes with his whole entourage and everybody else. And me, of course, being me, I don't like him in the slightest, but it would be like a celebrity photo opportunity. So I managed to get my photo taken with him. And this was in, I think, August of 2021 that this all happened. And then a couple weeks later, I told the story to my little brother, my youngest brother. And I told him the whole story, and I showed him the picture, and he looked at me with the most innocent expression on his face, and he said, "Why didn't you punch him?"
That kid's
And
been
I
raised
just burst-
right.
I just burst out laughing at that. I was like, "Oh my God, I love you." Now
Oh,
I know
man.
why you're my brother, because of
Yeah.
that. Oh,
You're
man.
holding it all back. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
do you start with Justin Trudeau? I mean, he's hot.
Yeah,
He's a
that's
good
about it.
speaker.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
good speaker.
What a list.
shoot. It's a
He's a good
long
speaker.
list.
that's a long
I'd say
list.
Is he? Have you seen the water bottle speech?
Well, no, not only that, but have you heard the speaking moistly?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good speaker like
Speaking
20% of
moistly.
the time.
Hey, that's 20% more than
Yeah.
Joe.
That's 20%
That's-
more than Briar's boy, as I like to call him,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
I
man,
think
that's-
was a nickname that was given to him by both me and Major. The reason why we started that was because Briar's is the most vile ice cream to ever exist, and we know how much Joe loves his ice cream.
Briars
So
slaps.
yeah, Biden is the guy
No,
to eat
you're wrong.
Briar's.
Briars is oil and it's disgusting. I can
It
no longer
is.
associate with you. If you enjoy normal Briars, not like the classic one, not the one that's like
no, the
if it's like
classic.
okay, the classic one in the black like box that's like actual dairy. That stuff
Yeah.
slaps.
You
Not the
gotta
one in the
read
blue.
the
If you get the
label.
one if you get the one in the blue, if it's like the dairy tasting frozen dessert,
Yeah,
it's like
the
oh,
ice dessert
I'm
stomach.
good. I'll pass with the artery clogging on this one.
Ice milk, yeah.
Oh man, this is great. I love this.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, a little message to y'all out there. Don't get the iced milk. Get the real stuff.
Yeah, don't get the ice. Yeah, get the real stuff. Get Chapman's.
Chapman's. Okay. I mean, you can still get bad Chapman's, but it's better.
Or Haagen-Dazs. Or as
How
Stewie
much
Griffin
money
said,
do you have?
Haagen-Dazs. I think Stewie Griffin says it like that. Haagen-Dazs. Or however Seth MacFarlane does his voice. Anyway.
Next question. We're kind of winding down. We're starting to run out of questions.
Yeah, we're gonna.
here
Yeah.
as we approach
Yeah.
51 minutes.
Oh gosh, crazy.
What makes you want to be on the Basement podcast?
Can I start?
So
with
it's
this
a
one?
very loaded question. Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, I feel like it's just a fun thing to really, because a podcast isn't really like an interview per se. You can go on and just have a decent conversation with a bunch of like-minded people like Major and Lewis and Thucydides and a bunch of other people that we do have on here.
Mhm.
And you can just kind of just start having a conversation with a few questions lodged in there, and you can just kind of get lost in the conversation, and it's fun. You can just sit down and not have to worry about offending anybody or whatever, kind of.
Yeah.
And,
well, everyone getting offended doesn't
well-
have a voice, so
For the most part, yeah. And another thing I'd like to mention is that I'm glad that I'm glad that somebody's doing it. I'm glad that Thucydides has stepped up to do this, because I mean, I had an idea for a conservative themed podcast myself called Conversation Street. I can say this now because it's dead in the water. But it was something that I was basically thinking of a similar theme, kind of like this, but just more structured and stuff like that. But you beat me to the punch, and honestly, can I just say, Thucydides is way better at running a podcast than I am. So
well, you never really got very far with Conversation Street.
no, I'll probably do it at some point, or I might just do like a one-off something. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to say too much because I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's just an idea that I have. But if I ever decide to do something with it, be on the lookout for future episodes of this podcast, which is where I might explain some of it.
Fair enough.
Aside from that, that's where I stand on it.
Conversation Street with Basement Bennington. I like it.
Yes.
Anybody else who loves being on the Basement podcast?
I do.
Hey,
I like it.
Hey,
I think
You
it's
got
fun.
a gold
There you go.
star.
stroke my ego.
I think I just like being opinionated and like talking about my opinions. So like
That's kind of
I don't know.
awesome.
You
We
handed me a
low-key love
microphone
doing
and I said
that.
yes. Also,
Yeah.
I think it's really fun. I think more young people should like I don't know. I don't necessarily say people should do more like sharing their opinions on the internet because that turns into a mess a lot of the
That's what
time.
TikTok's for.
But
Yeah,
like
Another
it's
thing
fun.
another thing I will say, Lewis, is like you just say one thing and then you just sit back and watch the dumpster fire completely unfold from there. One thing that my dad and I have really bonded over doing these past couple of years is that we just
Burning
talk about things and
dumpsters? Sorry, that's exactly where my brain went. Sorry,
you're exactly
go ahead.
your brain went to setting fires in a dumpster. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean, right? You basically just sit back and watch the political cesspool just sit there and kind of bubble up for a while. Just sit back and watch it happen, and
Mhm.
you just laugh at the morons and I was going to say something not family friendly. I'm going to refrain from saying that. So
Oh,
yeah,
Not on my
so
Christian podcast.
Really glad that I stopped myself then. But you kind of get what I mean. You just sit back and laugh at the stupidity of some people, and I just love the fact that I get to do this, and that I get to do this with a bunch of like-minded people, and um, a lot of, if not every single member of this podcast right now, I actually know on a personal level. Major and Lewis the most out of everybody, and I'm just glad that we all get to sit down here and just talk about a bunch of shenanigans and just have fun, share some laughs, and yeah.
Exactly.
I probably took up a bunch of time. Major,
That's
bail me
fine.
out here, man.
Your turn.
I will be brutally honest. The reason I'm here is just kind of like, why not? Like,
Okay.
that's what it boils down to
All right,
for me.
fine. Get off the show.
No,
Don't
I mean,
want you either.
no, I enjoy the conversations. Don't get me wrong. It's just like, oh, we're doing a podcast today. Cool, I'll come do that. It's not
Yeah,
like
fair
it's the
enough.
high. It's not like I'm like, oh my goodness, I got the podcast in a week from now. Wah! But like, but it's like, yeah, cool. I'm down. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
don't feel
it's
like. I think I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy being on here. I just like was just kind of like, you know what? Why not? Like, it's not
Why
gonna.
not?
Why not
not
just
gonna-
sit down and have a chance to be articulate? Well, as articulate as I can be, and share my opinions and thoughts and get out of my own
Yeah.
head. I think it's a good
I mean,
time.
and you don't have to worry about being too, shall we say, professional in a place like this. I mean, for anybody
No.
that knows me very well IRL, you will know that I stutter a lot and I barely speak English on the best of days. But it's crazy.
There is something about having to express your opinions out loud and do it as concisely and as articulately as possible that really actually, I think, goes all the way back into your thinking. Like, in order to properly structure what you want to say, you have to properly structure what you're thinking in your head. And so actually taking the time to like express what you think about something is just super valuable. So I would encourage anyone to try to do something like this. Maybe not a podcast, but at least speak up about what you believe, because you'll get criticism, and criticism will help you improve your arguments, and it'll go all the way back to how you think. And being a good thinker is one of the greatest skills you could possibly have, because if you're a good thinker and not many people can outthink you, they're not going to be able to like outact you either, like, because thinking is kind of, I don't know, it's the basis for a lot of things.
Well, I mean, I'm no Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer, for crying out loud, but you can kind of, again, and also one thing I feel like a lot of people do is they end up putting on an act. They put on a facade. You don't really have to do that here either. And I know I've probably mentioned something similar to it, like literally just 2 minutes ago. But you guys get what I mean, right?
Yeah, totally.
And
Yeah,
just
totally.
but to summarize it in one single sentence, pardon the pun, but it's pretty based, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I saw this video. Like, my dad sent me this Peter McKinnon video, and basically at the end of the video was just keep moving, because nobody's gonna jump for you, and if you want something to happen, nobody's gonna just deliver it to you. Like, if you want to do something, your only option is to go out and do it. You can't just wait around, because no one's ever
Yeah,
gonna
stop
give it
waiting
to
for
you.
things to happen.
And so I was kind of like, hey, maybe someday it'd be fun to start a podcast. Here we are. I was just like, hey, we're going to do it. And honestly, it's been so much fun. Just these past 9 episodes have been absolutely fantastic. And I'll admit, since doing this, I have been thinking more about what I say. And I see things now, and I'll just see, driving in my car, and I'll see some dumb little sign on the side of the road, and I'll start yelling to myself in my car, and I'm articulating, and I'll say it again and again and again until I get it right. And I didn't used to do that until being on this show, and now I'll think something, and I'll think of, oh, hey, can I say this on the basement? And I'll start iterating it, and I'll start thinking in my head until eventually it becomes something coherent, and then I can say it here. That is part of why I write the questions. I write the questions I want to answer.
Yeah.
So, and if that means I have a premeditated and very concise answer to a question, I'll write that question. It's like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been actually so much fun. Basement podcast is a good time.
The only thing I'll say about
And
that
what-
is you
and-
completely screw us over because you have prepared answers and we have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah. See, if you guys just let me go first, like I try to get you guys to go first because I don't want to answer first. But if you guys just don't say anything, I'll go eventually. Except for this next
You'll say this.
question. This next question, I
Okay.
don't. Well, I won't. I'll answer after you guys, maybe.
Okay.
Question number 8. What makes you? All right, go ahead.
What-
Come on.
Okay.
What makes you blank?
What makes
What?
you?
What makes you?
What makes
What
you?
makes you?
And if you say your parents, no.
Well, that's okay. That is a factor, but that's not the main thing. Major, you just go ahead. I need time to think about my answer.
What makes me?
What makes
Yes.
you?
And while God is a good answer, I think you need more to it than that, don't you?
Yeah, probably.
But it's a really good answer, and it's a really important factor in it. But go
Well,
ahead.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I think for me that's the only correct answer I can give to that question.
That
Okay,
was
that-
more of
you-
an
you
answer
know
that I
what?
was expecting to get out of this.
You know what?
question.
That's fair. That is fair. What makes me?
Well,
Dang,
I
that
think
is-
don't
that is
think about it
putting it.
too hard. I think this goes back to the first episode, but I wrote like a significant amount of these questions just as an absolute joke, and I don't expect real answers. That's why I include real good questions
It's like
like
the-
what makes you angry.
It's like the
because
gender fluid one. I had my
Yeah.
own opinions on that. It sucks that
I include deep questions because I know we can rip through 80% of the questions in about 2 minutes. But here we are,
Well, what
an hour
what
one.
makes me? That is
Hour
that
two.
is that is actually a really good way of wording that question. And if I had to really say, if I had to summarize it in a sentence or two, it's that, I mean, in the words of Popeye, I am what I am. I mean, like, I'm very happy to be where I'm at, and my parents, while they haven't made me, they've done it. They've been a big part in basically formulating who I am today and molding that, and the relationships, both past and present, that I've had, and the fact that I'm really wanting to go out there and do something in this, and do something and make a difference. And I'm probably talking a load of rubbish, but I don't know how else to put that.
No,
But I feel like the biggest factor is indeed God, because He had me in his, for lack of a better word, for His mind's eye, since for over 2,000 years, ever since the world was created, ever since He said, "Let there be light." Even before then, He had an idea. He had us in his head, if that makes any sense. If I can basically attribute God to being a human being, which in reality He was at some point in time, but I feel like He had all of us in His mind, and to basically appear at some point in time, at some point in the history of the world, and it was supposed to happen at such and such a time and in such and such a place. And I'm just happy that, we are who we are. And, I'm probably talking a lot of rubbish. You know what? I'm just going to stop talking now.
Hey, you just
Because
stretched a
I'm going on-
30-second question into 4 minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
content, baby.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, last question. Unless you guys have any what makes you questions you want to pose to the rest of us. Nope. Okay, last question. Number 9. What makes you based?
Major, do you want to start off with this one? I think you have a pretty goofy answer to this question.
I don't feel very based, but I don't know.
Get off the show. Why do you think it's called this?
The voice crack.
I don't feel like I don't know. I
Ah.
wouldn't consider myself based. I
He's
just
based.
like
Well, then again,
I
that's
don't
only
know.
in
I just try
that's
to do
only
my
according to
best.
you,
I don't
Major.
feel
He's very based.
I don't know.
No, I
You
feel
have a
like
lot of
no,
good things to say.
no,
I think
know
we
what you
all
mean.
have a lot of good things to say, and I think that's part of being based is like, I don't know, actually saying things and trying to make them as true as possible.
I mean, if I can be completely honest, I feel like specifically referring to myself as based and trying to think of stuff for me, I personally feel like that would be very self-centered to me, and that's not something that I would wish to do. So, but I don't know. I mean, like, I don't view myself really as based right now because, I mean, I have only lived a significant portion of my life. But then again, I could probably look back in 10 years' time and think, you know, XYZ was pretty based, whatever, when it comes to an event or how I feel about myself in a certain moment or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like the fact that we are all based, what shows that we are all based is that we are all willing to speak the truth no matter what it is. And the fact that the fact that we're willing to do that, and the fact that there are so many more people in this world who are willing to do that, that basically just answers the core reason for, I mean, for what makes us all as an entity, as a whole, as a group of people, based, if that makes any sense. Granted, the word based is a word that only really started to appear in the vocabulary of Gen Z over the past couple of years. And yet it's already and yet that word has gone on to mean so much more than just, you know, what Gen Z describes the word based to mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see. Lewis, we've kind of already talked about what makes you based in episode 7. But what, just to summarize, what makes you based? I'm still trying to think of my answer. So
Okay. Lewis, what do you have for us?
she's dead.
What makes me
Oh,
makes me based? I don't know.
I feel like
I
this is
don't
going to
know.
be a common answer.
It's hard to pin down. I think it's easier to see based in other people than just to see in yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to really
kind of
sort of.
deep, actually.
I
That's
always see based people as people who are like willing to kind of like step out there, put themselves out there, expose themselves to controversy,
Yeah.
and still speak the truth. I don't know. That's the easiest way I can put it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think being based, at least for me, is, standing out a little bit, just sticking up for what you believe, right? So many people are they're more than happy to be the sheep because being outside of there is scary, right? But the world needs a few more sheepdogs, protect protect the sheep.
And not only that, but it's like, I remember Don Cherry, who used to do a lot of hockey related stuff back in the day until he was sacked by CBC about 5 or 6 years ago. I remember he said something, I think on television, I think it was around 2008 or something. It was ages and ages ago. But the fact that it was a quote that he said, I set my own fashion. And he was talking about fashion, but I set my own trends. I do my own thing. I don't follow everybody else. I'm not a follower. And I mean, I set my own fashion. I view that as an analogy for the fact that I am not willing to, I'm not willing to conform. I'm willing to go out there and do things my own way. And if people like it, so be it. If don't, so be it. Like, you just go out there and, just do whatever you can. to at least expose people to the truth that exists in this world. And if people choose to believe it or not, that's up to them. That's between them and their own maker.
Fair enough. All right. Well, unless anyone else has another answer for what makes them based, then I think that is where we end this
What
one.
makes them speak English?
Yeah, I don't. And 1 hour and 10 minutes. That's pretty good. That would be.
Is that the
I know,
longest?
I think that's the
Basement
longest
podcast?
episode now.
I think this might be the longest
I
episode
don't
we've
know
ever
if we've
done.
broken an hour quite yet, but sweet. Thanks, guys. Well,
No, we
that
did
was-
because we officially started at 5:08 p.m. and it's now 6:19 p.m.
Yeah,
so
I
we
see,
made
I
it
see
an
the
hour.
recording here. We're
Yeah.
closing in on an hour 11. But yeah, thanks for listening to the Basement Podcast. If you guys aren't subscribed to the podcast, then subscribe to us on YouTube or Rumble. Keep an eye out for the clips. Subscribe for those because those are funny and those are the highlights from the episodes. Speaking of clips, huge shout out to Aquinas. You guys saw her in the last, well, not saw, but heard her in the last episode. She's been in the background lurking, getting all the clips from this episode. So if you find something
Yeah,
funny,
huge shout out
then
to
huge
Aquinas.
shout
Yeah.
out to her because she has been, essentially, she has been rescuing us, getting all the content, saving me probably an hour at least.
Saving
takes
us
a-
a
it-
bunch of time.
It takes a long time to get all the clips, so
We
huge
love
shout out to
Aquinas.
Aquinas. And subscribe to the Basement Podcast. The classical music's gonna be fading in right about now.
Just do
Oh,
it.
I have to upload episode 8, or I have to
Oh, gosh.
publish it. I'm gonna go do that now. Thanks for watching the podcast. Bye.